Now for the eighth wonder of the world, basically a geek show. And here are your hosts,
Ladies
Mike
and
Jack.
gentlemen, it is time for episode 56 of Basically a Geek Show. As always, I am Mike, and as always, I am joined by Jack.
Hello everyone, how goes the things and the stuff? We have a lot of mediocrity to go over today.
Well, before, I'm gonna start us off, a bit off the reservation, because I want to repeat a story I had told you, to our listeners. Because, yeah, I think it's funny. To just kind of show you, the way that the social aspect of MMORPGs tend to work. So, in WoW, you guys have heard us talk about this thing called trade chat before in World of Warcraft. It's a network that links all of the major hubs of the two factions together. And as such, it's kind of the place where everyone just sort of bullshits because you get the wider audience. Anyone, almost anywhere in the game can partake in a conversation in trade chat. And, so I'm just kind of sitting there and in game, and I notice in trade chat, they're talking about, the merits of communism versus the merits of capitalism in a debate that I can assure you had at the highest intellectual level. But there's this poor motherfucker. He just wants to know what follower for his in-game garrison to put at his fishing shack. And he is just having the worst fucking day, because nobody is paying him any attention. It's like, well, you're stupid! Does anyone know who I should put at the fishing shack? No, you're stupid!
Yeah,
well, let me tell you a thing about Stalin!
Right,
Does anybody know about the fishing shack? Who should I put there?
Right, and that's the thing with trade chat, right? I mean, all these fucking idiots are in there talking about anything at all, anything and everything at all, with as long as it doesn't actually have anything to do with the fucking game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, not to date myself here, but back in the day, there were places that you could go to on the internet to talk to people. They were called chat rooms.
Yeah.
And, it's like, come on, people. Seriously. If you want to talk about the shit, fine, but if someone actually wants to talk about the fucking game,
like this poor bastard who probably still doesn't know what follower is supposed to put at your fishing shack.
Right, exactly. I mean, come on. At least try to help them out or something. I mean, and I know some people will try to do that, but,
Well, no, it's almost become kind of a hazing thing. It's like, oh, how do you troll new players to the game? Tell them to ask for advice in trade chat.
Does anyone know where to go at level 18? Outlands!
The mom's house!
Yeah. Chuck Norris eats noobs, lol.
Indeed, but, we have an MMO to talk to you guys about. It's not World of Warcraft, though. A few episodes back, episode 54, we talked about how Wildstar has seen their sales numbers just drop into fucking oblivion. And we were talking about that maybe their, policy of only catering to the hardest of hardcore MMO players, maybe that was no longer viable. It seems as if the people running Wildstar, or at least the people on the financial side of the company running Wildstar, tend to agree, because the thing we never thought would happen, happened, and Wildstar has gone free to play.
Yeah, it was real funny because we had just said the other day that, I think it was me that had said, we both actually just kind of concluded that just wasn't most likely going to happen.
No, it went against it when Wildstar first launched, just to repeat ourselves for the sake of clarity in this conversation, when Wildstar first launched, they said, we're not aiming for, World of Warcraft level subscriptions. We only want the hardest of hardcore players in our game.
Right, yeah, they wanted to go back to the vanilla WoW feel back when it was quote-unquote hardcore.
Which is awful if you ever hear anyone talk about it. If you actually talk to someone who played during vanilla WoW, it's not good. It's like, oh, this game sucked!
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are those who are really nostalgic about vanilla because that was when they first started playing, and I get that. I really do. but you've got to separate the fond memories from the bad things at the time. Like, you and I are very nostalgic for Lich King, but we will, we can look back and be like, yeah, there was a lot of things that we have now that we didn't have then. And,
everything was perfect. How dare you?
Right. This whole thing of, it was better back then, blah, blah. And in some ways it was better back then, in some ways. But in a lot of ways it wasn't, and you've got to be able to separate the two, and not just go on these blind fucking rage fits like a lot of the vanilla addicts are, whatever,
Mm-hmm. But, it's a situation, right, where, I don't know, it seems like Wildstar, they really don't know what to do, because now, okay, it's not enough to get people to want to sign up. In a lot of ways, that's the easy part, is getting them to give your game a chance. The hard part is keeping them. And free-to-play is going to mean a wider player base and a more casual player base. Because free-to-play is like a siren calling out to the casual player because there's absolutely no financial commitment to it. You can download the game, you can register an account, you can create a character, and you can just shut it down right after that. You can come back to it whenever you want. It is perfect. That's why free-to-play, has been so successful, because it appeals to that casual gamer in a very concrete way. So, so by going free-to-play, they're gonna get an influx of casual players. But, again, it's gonna be a matter of keeping them so they want to continue playing. And to do that, they're gonna have to go against some of their own stated design principles. They're going to have to make the game more casual.
Yeah. Well, they kinda, I don't know. The whole thing, again, we go back to the standard problem with the quote-unquote WoW killer.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, I don't think Wildstar ever set out to be a WoW killer.
Other people were saying it was.
Right.
I don't think they ever said it was.
Right, and that's just it. They keep throwing this title on these games that aren't even seeking to do it. Like Guild Wars 2, it never sought to destroy WoW. Wildstar has never sought to destroy WoW. Now, Star Wars: The Old Republic, yeah, it did.
It did, and that did not go over very
well. Right,
and
it got told to sit down.
Sit down, son!
Yeah, pretty much, exactly. Yeah. Sit the fuck down! Wildstar never tried that. They were admittedly appealing to a targeted demographic to begin with, and it didn't work. So now they're having to either, adapt or get out of the marketplace. And, I'm looking forward to it. I will definitely try it.
Well, Nat, the reason why I haven't up until now is because I'm already paying for one subscription-based thing a month in WoW, and, quite frankly, it just wouldn't make financial sense to throw another $15 to $20 a month at another game that I'm not even sure I'll like.
Right. Yeah, and I'm sure that my only problem is now, based on what you've told me about how they're doing the free-to-play model, it does make me concerned, because it sounds kind of like the way the Old Republic works.
Yeah, Knights of the Old Republic went free-to-play, and it was awful. I mean, you need to pay to do just about anything except scratch your ass in that game.
Don't give them ideas.
The Wildstar free-to-play experience, it doesn't sound as bad. Like, in Knights of the Old Republic, you need to pay just to get bank tabs. Like, not even to get more bank, just to get a bank tab. You need to pay. And that's bullshit. But, in Wildstar, they said that, free players will get less bank tabs. Which is already better, because it doesn't mean they're forcing you to pay just to get bank tabs. I mean, you'll still have bank tabs, just not as much.
Right.
And, a lot of their free-to-play conditions seem to be in that vein. They're gonna give you, there's definitely gonna be perks to, paying for the game, but it doesn't seem like they're going out of their way to handicap you, at least not necessarily. It's not at, Star Trek Online levels. Star Trek Online, I think, is the perfect free-to-play, because everything that you could possibly pay for is cosmetic, but it's in a good way where if like you want a specific ship or a specific uniform set for your character, you can get that, but you don't have to. And you can play the entire game without giving Cryptic a dime. And so that, until something else comes along, Star Trek Online is going to be my standard bearer for free to play. This isn't that. This seems like a halfway measure between that and Knights of the Old Republic, which is absolutely what you don't want to do. So I'm not thrilled with it, but at the same time, it could definitely be a lot worse. And maybe that's just Stockholm Syndrome. Oh, they're not hitting me as much as they could. But.
Right. And also, even though I hate the game and I hate the players, Riot does a good job of a free-to-play model with League of Legends.
I've never played League of Legends.
Well, it's the same mentality as the STO has in the sense that you can play the game and experience everything without paying a fucking cent, and it's relatively feasible to do so. You can pay money to unlock new characters, but you can also earn that in-game, and it's not that bad of a curve to do it once you consider how long it takes to actually master a particular character. By the time you've got one down, you'll have enough points to buy another one. And the only thing that you absolutely have to pay for are the various skins for the characters to alter their external appearance.
Well, you say you don't have to do this unless you're Richie, in which case it's take all my money, Riot!
Yeah, I do have a roommate who does have a problem. But, that's
the first step,
neither here nor there.
The first step to solving the problem is admitting he has one.
Exactly.
But I wish Wildstar was going more in that direction, and maybe they will. Maybe if free to play brings in enough of an additional subscriber boost that they decide to expand on it, maybe that'll happen. But I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic. All right, here's a full list of what free to play entails on Wildstar. Existing players will get some nice cosmetic rewards. Okay. All current content is open to free players, but there may be paid content in the future. That concerns me. Again, cases like League of Legends and Star Trek Online, you can play the entire game without, spending a dime. So, again, I wish that would be something that Wildstar would look into. Free players will have less character slots, customer slots, bank slots, so that kind of stuff. That doesn't necessarily bother me because they're not withholding that stuff from you, you're just getting less of it. So that's not necessarily a problem. Free players have other restrictions on their account, such as limited auction house and commodity exchange access, no priority access to customer support, no crafting or currency bonuses, no gathering bonuses, no PTR access, no queue priority, no reputation bonuses, no experience bonuses, and other restrictions. That one is the one that's kind of iffy to me.
Well, it's a bonus. I mean, it depends on, it depends on if they're going to nerf the actual experience in game to make it to where, leveling will be almost impossible, basically. It will take so long that it'll become infeasible unless you pay for the bonus. So, I mean, bonus on one hand, it sounds optional, and I'm sure it will be billed as optional. It's a question of, how much of a difference is it and how feasible is it to level without it?
Well, I think they're going to have to... I see this as Wildstar begrudgingly going free to play. They don't want to, obviously, but the economics of the situation have forced them into this. And so, I think it all depends on where it goes from here. If they get enough of a boost from free to play, then, they might decide to loosen some of these restrictions up. It'll all depend on how all of this goes. If you ask my opinion, I don't think the game's long for this world anyway. Especially if they don't loosen some of these restrictions. They're kind of not in a position where they need to be handicapping free-to-play players. They kind of need as many of them to sign up as they can possibly get. So, we're in a waiting game. I'm cautiously optimistic, so long as they don't go full douche nozzle. As long as they don't go full EA, I think I'll be more or less happy.
I mean, hopefully they won't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I only think that EA is really capable of going full EA. I don't think there's another company, maybe Ubisoft, they might be able to pull it off. But I don't think there's another company out there that has that capacity. There can only be one Emperor Palpatine in the video game world, and I think that's EA, and I think it'll stay that way, because I don't think anyone else wants to be them. I think everyone looks and sees how badly they're reviled and hated by the players in this abusive relationship that we're in with them.
Yeah, but you know what? They're hated by the players, and they still make money hand over fist, so...
Hey, I bought Inquisition. I admit it. I'm guilty.
So you're part of the problem too, okay.
Yeah, I am part of the problem. I mean, I give you shit about buying Madden and shit, but in my defense, you've been running out and grabbing one of those every fucking year.
No, I've decided I'm not doing it anymore.
And it's
not happening anymore.
And it's been it was 3 or 4 years in between Dragon Age games and such, so, there's that at least.
The Madden addiction stops this year. No more, sir. No more. But that's free to play, in Wildstar. Just kind of funny how that happened at the timing of our episodes. We're saying, it'll never happen. It's not what they want to do. And then, no one's playing our game. So if you want to do it for free, sure. Guess you can. I kind of want to do it just to see all the hardcore players there bitch about all these new players. And then I'll go out of my way to be as annoyingly noobish as I possibly can. Where do I mine for fish? How do I get to Outland?
Yeah. But moving on, we're going to shift gears dramatically here to a really quick kind of a downer note. Evidently, sadly, Dracula has passed away.
Sir Christopher Lee passes away at the age of 93.
Yeah, the self-proclaimed heir to the throne of Charlemagne, world-renowned heavy metal artist.
I don't think that claim would have held up in a court of law, but
evidently he said that he'd proved it through lineage or some.
Oh no! I don't doubt it. He was a direct descendant of Charlemagne.
I don't see France and Germany handing themselves over to him.
Exactly.
Well, France might.
That would necessarily be hard.
I mean, leave it to France to surrender over a court decision, but still.
Or just one elderly man.
Yeah.
No, he'd just show up and be like, so I'm the direct descendant of Charlemagne. And like, oh, well, we surrender. Here's the key to the presidential palace. But yeah, Christopher Lee passes away. I mean, the guy was in his late 80s, early 90s when he released a heavy metal album. For fuck's sake. Christopher Lee was awesome.
Yeah, he really was. And, I've listened to a lot of his music that he did. And, I've always been a fan of the operatic metal, the symphonic metal kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty good stuff. I mean, he's no Nightwish, but it's pretty good stuff. It's solid. And, I've always kind of enjoyed it from time to time when I'm in one of those moods. And, of course, more importantly, his film legacy was spanning decades. Well, even until recently where, he was, recently, quote unquote. I mean, he was Count Dooku.
The Star Wars,
yeah.
Yes.
I think he's done some voiceover work.
So here's just a graphic of some text that, was floated on the internet when news of his passing was made public. Sir Christopher Lee was Dracula. He was Scaramanga, the Bond villain from Man with a Golden Gun. He was both Sherlock and Mycroft Holmes. He was Death. He was Lucifer. He was Count Dooku. He was Saruman. He was Lord Summersisle. He recorded a heavy metal concept album about Charlemagne. He hunted actual Nazis during World War II in service of the British Army. He was part of a secret agent called the Ministry of the Ungentlemanly Warfare during World War II. When told by Peter Jackson how to imagine how a man being stabbed in the back sounds, he told him he didn't have to imagine it. He was fluent in English, Italian, French, German, and Spanish, and moderately proficient in Swedish, Russian, and Greek, and even conversational in Mandarin Chinese. Jesus. Now let's see Chuck Norris top that.
Well, I mean, you don't need to top that when you could single-handedly smash the Great Wall with a roundhouse kick.
Possibly.
His conversation is his fists, sir. He has his own language, and it's called "You're dead."
Yeah, but Christopher Lee was deaf.
So Chuck Norris was Christopher Lee?
Oh man, you got some Inception crap in here.
I know, right?
But yeah, I think that's great. He told Peter Jackson he didn't need to imagine being stabbed in the back. Wow.
Well, I mean, do you really? Does one really need to I mean, okay.
Well, no, that's the thing. He actually had been stabbed in the back.
Oh, well, true. I'd forgotten that, actually. But even that notwithstanding, I mean, it's one of those things like, yeah, it would suck. I get it. I don't need to dwell on it. It wouldn't be pleasant at all.
I mean, Christopher Lee, like, you just look at him. The guy's World War II service alone would make him a hero. The guy, he really was. I mean, you all know Inglourious Basterds, right? He did that for real.
Yeah, he was a fucking badass.
Yeah, he was. And, I guess one of my favorite Christopher Lee stories involves, The Wicker Man. On that list, it mentioned he was Lord Summersile. Now, Lord Summersile was the villain of the original, Wicker Man movie. It was either the 70s or the 80s. I can't remember which one. But it's 70s, 80s, British horror film. And Christopher Lee played the villain. Lord Summersile. Now, they remade, now in the original film, the island of Summersile that is the setting of the film is sort of a haven for pagans. In, the original film. In the remake, starring, world-renowned thespian Nicolas Cage, they changed the island's kind of theme from pagan to, matriarchy. And, of course, the Lord Summersile character was replaced with a revised character, named Lady Summersile. And so that movie comes out, and they ask, Christopher Lee, so, did you see the new Wicker Man movie? What did you think? And he just angrily scoffed at the reporter, "They replaced me with a goddamn woman!" and stormed off.
Nice.
Sorry feminists, hashtag not all men. Anyway.
Lol.
But yeah, I mean, the guy's film career, as you said, spanned decades, and then he decided later in life, as an elderly man, this seems like the perfect time to start a career in heavy metal. So, I don't know, like, in general, did you ever see any of his Dracula movies?
Yeah. Yeah, I grew up watching, my mother watched him a lot. Mm-hmm. And even since then, in my adult years, I've every now and then gotten a wild hair and watched some of them. Mm-hmm. To say he was a masterful actor, he fit his parts. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think he would have been good for much in anything else. Mm-hmm. Frankly, I just really don't. But what he did better than anyone else.
Mm-hmm. Well, I particularly liked him, actually, in The Man with the Golden Gun, being the second Roger Moore Bond film. He played Scaramanga, the villain in that, and that Bond movie has a lot of problems. It's really not good. In fact, it sucks. I'd go so far as to say it sucks, but Christopher Lee is actually one of the better parts of it. It's definitely a case where you're kind of looking at it and you're like, and you're going, okay, it's not all that great because he's working with shit material, but damn it, he's doing the most with what little he's given. And he actually, he took the role very seriously. You think, Roger Moore era Bond film, I think it's just gonna be like sloppy garbage, in a lot of ways that movie is. But he gave an interview, and maybe this is because he had a lot of respect for the source material. He was actually a cousin of Ian Fleming, the author of the original Bond novels. But he actually talked about how he wanted to give Scaramanga layers. He wanted Scaramanga to seem like a dark reflection of Bond himself. And a lot of that really comes through. And again, the screenplay, the screen adaptation of the book is awful. And you can see where, if you watch, you can actually see where he's trying desperately. It's like pulling teeth, but he's really trying to make it all work. So, he's always gonna win points for that, for making Man of the Golden Gun somewhat watchable.
Lol. That's one Bond movie I don't think I've ever seen.
Let me just put it to you this way. In the middle, it decides in the middle of the movie, it decides that it's going to stop being a James Bond movie and it's going to start being a Dukes of Hazzard episode. And then it decides it's going to be a James Bond movie again. But it gets confused. But, it is what it is.
Yeah. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, a long source of bickering, whining, gnashing, and wailing within the WoW community has been the utter absence of flying in Warlords of Draenor, and recently Blizzard has kind of cried uncle a little bit. They've announced a quote-unquote compromise.
It's called the Draenor Pathfinder Achievement. Basically, Blizzard gave their explanation for why they've been withholding flying, and it's basically what we've been saying since this announcement was made way back before the expansion launched, being that the world's more fun to explore when you're not flying, it helps with immersion, all that kind of stuff. And I really can't even fault them on that. I know we've kind of beat Blizzard up a bit on this show the last couple of episodes, but I don't really hold necessarily the lack of flying against it, because I understand what they're trying to do, and I don't even find myself really missing it. I know a lot of people have missed it. I haven't, personally. But it has been a topic of contention. But their solution is there's going to be an achievement called Draenor Pathfinder. And what that is if you explore all of Draenor's zones, you collect 100 hidden treasures on Draenor, you complete the Draenor Lore Master achievement, which is completing all of the main quests in all of the zones, and securing Draenor, which is completing the assault dailies that are available in your garrison. If you do all of that, you get this Draenor Pathfinder achievement, and you then unlock flying in Draenor on all of your characters on that account, level 90 and higher. So, we've kind of been following this saga, this controversy, since even before the expansion launched, when they first announced it. I think we were both kind of in agreement that we really didn't mind the lack of flying. I haven't changed in that. I haven't seen the need to add flying. I know you haven't. What are your takes, Jack, on this compromise?
It's better than nothing, I guess. I see a lot of people. Now, me personally, I'm neutral. I could give two shits one way or the other. Mm-hmm. Draenor with flying, Draenor without flying. I really don't care. Mm-hmm. I really don't. I mean, it's not that big of a deal to me. But I can see where people are going to be kind of irritated and think that maybe this is geared more towards people who just don't, who have a lot of time to put into the game, where they just don't. But then again, if they have that little time to put into the game, then the lack of flying shouldn't really bother them, because it's only for a couple of hours a week that they have to be arsed. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. But I can see people whining.
I can see people whining, but I honestly don't think that's going to be as prevalent as you maybe think, because, okay. It sounds like you've got to do a lot to get flying, but it's really not. First up, exploring Draenor zones. You kinda do that over the course of your expansion anyway. Over the course of the expansion anyway. You know, just as you're doing quests, they move you from zone to zone, and, you know, you end up exploring most of a zone over the course of that zone's quest lines anyway. At most, maybe you'll have, you know, a sub-zone or two that you have to discover. That you have to explore. And it's really one of those things where, over the course of playing the game, most of it's just going to happen without you even noticing it. And same with Lore Master. Now, the whole Lore Master thing for particular regions used to be a pain in the ass back before they really knew how questing should work. But starting with Pandaria, and definitely kind of taken to new heights in Draenor, they've done a really good job integrating all of a zone's quests into one engaging story. So as, you know, you will get the Lore Master achievement for Draenor if you just see each zone storyline to its conclusion via quests. That's gonna be something that happens.
Yeah.
Almost without you even thinking about it. Just as you're playing the game, you will accomplish most, if not all of that. The two things that look like they're going to be, challenges, or at least time sinks, are going to be collecting 100 treasures in Draenor and securing Draenor. Now, the 100 treasures thing is sort of expanding the concept that they introduced to the Timeless Isle with all of those hidden treasure caches into all of Draenor. You know, as you're going through, Draenor in the expansion, you'll notice all these little hidden, treasures. And if you get 100 of these, you get that part of the achievement. Thing is that through the garrison system, you can send followers on quests, and some of the quest rewards are treasure maps to each zone. So if you get a zone's treasure map, you, use that, and when you look at the world map for that zone, it just shows you where all the treasures are for that zone. So you get maps for, say, 2 zones, and you don't even have to look for 100 treasures. They're just right there on the map. You just have to physically go there. Now, again, that's a bit of a time sink, but I honestly don't think it's that difficult if you have those maps. And the maps aren't hard to come by. They just randomly pop up as quest rewards in your garrison. Securing Draenor is going to be the one that takes a lot of time, because those assaults are only open via daily quests. And those daily quests, you only get, 2 a day, and there are multiple assault, quests, looking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So, 6 days at least, probably more, as some of them will probably be repeated. But, all in all, like, it's not gonna be an easy achievement to get. But it's not gonna be hard either, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I'm not necessarily arguing that it is that big of a deal. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying how people are going to react to it. Mm-hmm. 'Cause you know the internet. They will get their knickers in a twist about anything. Mm-hmm. And instead of saying, oh, well, it's better than no flying at all, they'll say, well, you know, I can't be expected to do all this. I don't have time to run around looking for all these treasures. Blah, 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 because they're not rational people. A lot of them are. I mean, some of them are, yes, but a lot of them aren't. So, that's my take on it. And I'll just sit back and continue to laugh, because I don't care.
I popped over to the official WoW forums, someone responded, Arthas says, Father, is it over? Tyrannus says, "At long last, son, no flying can never rule forever, my son."
That's stupid.
I chuckled.
That's stupid.
I chuckled.
Well, you're stupid.
I think it's fine. I'm trying to take the long view in this. I think this is more important long term than it is necessarily as it pertains to Draenor. Because, okay. I agree when Blizzard says that, exploring new content is always going to be more exciting, from the ground. Immersion's better, you get a larger sense of exploration. And so I definitely understand why they want to preserve that. But at the same time, flying has become an integral part of the game, and you really can't take it away after it being, so ingrained for, 4 expansions now? BC to Pandaria? It was just there.
Yeah.
So, it's a catch-22, and I think this is a good compromise. And it's not only a good compromise, but it sets the groundwork for how flying's going to be dealt with in further expansions. And I'm perfectly fine with that. It's a good compromise. If you want flying, you just do a little extra and you get it. So, I'm completely okay with this. I don't see the, obviously people are gonna bitch, but it's going to be something, but they're gonna bitch anyway.
Yeah, there's always going to be something to bitch about. I mean, whether it's a real thing or a not, or just merely in the minds of the players, there's always going to be something to bitch about. Mm-hmm. And even when, it's one of those cases where even if they were to completely install flying right now, people would be happy, yes, but they would still bitch that it had ever been done to begin with. There's no winning. There's no winning really ever. To be honest with you.
No, you really don't win. Blizzard especially doesn't win. No. And I kind of feel bad because we've kind of been piling on. I mean, they deserved having us pile on given, their questionable decision making as of late. But at the same time, I also understand that they're kind of in a tough position in that they're trying to get this angry, diverse group of people. They're trying to make all of them happy, and half of them want different shit from the other half. So, it's a struggle, and I think this is as good a compromise as you're ever going to see. At the same time, okay, no flying was never gonna hold. Too many people wanted it. Especially after that earnings report came up that said 3 million subscribers just up and left. There's no way anyone was going to be okay with totally alienating everyone who wanted flying. So this is as good a solution as I think anyone is going to get, and honestly, if you were one of those people who thought that flying was necessary, I am not one of them, but if you were, then here you go, shut up and take it, cause honestly, this is an olive branch. So recognize that, be mature about it. I understand that's asking for a lot, but there you have it. But, moving on. What is this next item on the agenda, sir? Daredevil.
Yes, the Red Evil.
So, I wanted to talk about Daredevil, the new show. I know you've seen the entire first season, Jack.
Yes.
I have not, but following me finally seeing all of the show Justified, I decided I needed to give another show a shot. You had given the show glowing praise, so I wanted to talk a bit about it. I've seen the first 3 episodes of it, and so, maybe, obviously can't go that in depth. I haven't seen the majority of the show yet, but I figured that'd be enough for a few talking points. My first impression is I like it a lot. I can't wait to see more. Second impression. I'm kind of not feeling their insistence that this takes place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I'm thinking, they say it does, though you don't get that feeling. I mean, they make no references.
They make references to the events of the Avengers. They keep, I mean, one of the key plot points seems to be that this construction company, United Allies or something, is basically been given a shit ton of money to rebuild New York after the events of the Avengers. And they keep referencing, the Battle of New York, from the Avengers.
Right.
And, that's fine. I understand why they're doing it. They want everything they do tied under the same umbrella. And that's fine. I get that. Thing is that, and I say this as someone who generally likes the Avengers films, they're not films that take themselves super seriously.
Yeah, and this series does try to do that.
This series feels closer to the Nolan Batman films, just in tone and feel.
Yeah.
And so, you got this series. It takes place in New York in the aftermath of the first Avengers film, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And, that Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's very fun, it's light. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It has fun with its characters. It has fun, with the audience. And then you got this film where it's like a blind Daredevil is beaten half to death and left for dead in a dumpster, and it's like, there was a tonal shift. If you were to watch this in chronological order and you watched Avengers, Battle of New York, and then you popped in, Daredevil, it's like, something happened. We went from Joss Whedon and his Buffy the Vampire Slayer-esque dialogue to Christopher Nolan, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. They don't actually say that, but it is very much in that tone. So, I don't know what, I honestly don't know what I'm complaining about, because I understand exactly why they're tying this into why they're tying it into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In fact, I'd probably be, slamming them even harder if they didn't tie it in. But at the same time, it's got its own feel, its own identity that kind of makes it hard for me to accept that it all takes place in the same universe. But on the other hand, that's kind of what makes it good, because as much as I enjoy the Marvel films, there's no denying they've gotten a bit cookie cutter.
They really fucking have.
Mm-hmm. And Daredevil, for the same reasons that it kind of doesn't fit, is the same thing that makes it really fun to watch. It takes place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's part of it. But you know what? It's fresh. I mean, it's not entirely original. We've seen this kind of thing done again with the Nolan Batman series, but within the context of Marvel, it is a much needed reprieve from the cookie cutter formula that we have been getting for years now.
Yeah, and since they're exploring this aspect of their universe in a TV or in a series format, it lets them do a lot of things that they haven't been able to do with one of their standard cookie cutter origin movies that we've all grown so accustomed to over the years. And I like it because it gives them time to do more, to flesh things out better, to give things more distinction, more life, better characterization, things like that.
Well, I love the fact that they resisted the urge to make the first episode the origin story. I mean, his origin story, Daredevil's origin story, is told through a series of flashbacks that spans the first couple of episodes. Like, again, I've only seen the first 3. I don't know if they're going to continue the whole series. But through the first 3 episodes, we get kind of flashbacks to Matt Murdock's life as a kid. We see how he, got blind. We see how he lost his eyesight. We see his dad was a not very good boxer. We see, that part. We see how his dad got, was on the wrong side of the mob. We see all that stuff that's important to Matt Murdock's character development. But none of it is, it's not presented in that cookie cutter origin story format. They kind of knew, it's like they knew, okay, we kind of have to tell the origin story because there's no getting away from that, but people are just gonna groan if we devote an entire episode to the origin. So, let's just, disperse it out throughout a couple episodes and get the story told that way. And you can't do that in a film. Really. So, you know, I like it. I like it a lot. I had actually heard some bad things going in. Yours was actually the first positive review I had heard of it, and I am happy to say that you were right.
I'm always right, nigga. What are you talking about?
Now, of course, I know from talking to you that the villain is the Kingpin. That kind of went without saying because, okay, whether people like it or not, the last mainstream exposure anyone had to Daredevil was the Ben Affleck film, and that had Daredevil as had the Kingpin as the villain. In fact, the Kingpin was the only good part about that godforsaken movie. But, I haven't seen the Kingpin yet. He hasn't made an appearance, but they're really building him up. His proxy keeps referencing my employer, and when people try to get specific, he goes, ha ha ha, we don't mention his name. And of course I know it's the Kingpin, I kind of spoiled myself, that way, although I think I would have figured it out anyway. But, all that being said, they're really building him up as this really badass Machiavellian, antagonist, and maybe I'm just gun shy, Iron Man 3 did a lot of trauma, it gave me a lot of trauma, sir. But I'm a little bit gun shy when it comes to building up awesome villains, because I'm like, they hurt me once before.
And you're kind of right to be wary here. I really did not like Wilson Fisk. I thought he was the one really weak point of this. Mm-hmm. He comes across as just this, it's one of those cases where they try to give a villain depth and everything, mm-hmm. and it just, to me, it doesn't work. Mostly because of, honestly, I want to say either the directing that they gave him or the actor himself. Mm-hmm. I didn't care for. He comes across as just kind of a whiny bitch.
So you're saying that instead of trying to give the character depth, they probably should have just gone the simple route and just made him like an evil bastard?
Or give him depth better. I don't know. I mean, it's...
Well, like I said, they're definitely building him up, and yeah, I know I'm late to the party, everyone else has already seen this show, but, one other thing I want to comment on the show from the limited, amount of episodes I've seen. The fuck is up the opening title sequence?
I think it's supposed, at first I thought it was supposed to be kind of evocative of how Murdoch sees, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. But when they actually do show it later on in the series, it doesn't look like that. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, kind of like wax.
Wax, or, at first I thought it was blood, but then I'm like, no, it's wax. I don't know.
Like, it's like wax or blood, but I don't know. It's weird. It seems like they gave the job of creating the opening titles to some art student who thought about it way too hard, and it's like, and then the wax is gonna form, the scales of justice, and alright, Terry, just, get it done. Is kind of like the feeling I got. I don't know. It's weird. But I like Daredevil. Look forward to seeing more episodes. And I hope I'm not disappointed with the Kingpin, because god damn it. If I end up being disappointed, I'm gonna start a petition saying, stop giving me hope for villains, because you all just keep disappointing me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It is what it is, sir. It is what it is.
Indeed. We're gonna stick on the Marvel train for a while. Now, a couple of months back, Jack, you and I made a pledge that we were gonna stop covering every little thing that the Marvel Cinematic Universe did, because it was getting a bit ridiculous, and I'm proud to say we've stuck by that, for the most part. But, this is not your standard bit of Marvel news. Very rarely, is Lego the downfall of a potential blockbuster. But, Lego has potentially spoiled Ant-Man.
Oh dear God, no, not Ant-Man.
And I think it's perfect that this turd of a movie is going to be spoiled by fucking Lego. I think that's just perfect. That's just comedy of errors, type of gold, there. But, you know, for those who are listening, spoilers, I know you all care about Ant-Man, but, there is a Lego set, because Lego has the, Marvel license. I actually also have the DC license. Both Marvel and DC have their, little minifigure, toys made by Lego. So that's kind of interesting, you know, just from a business perspective, but, Lego has the Marvel license, and, of course, like all Marvel movies, Ant-Man will have a toy line, including a series of Lego figures. And, there is a set that was shown off at, some sort of, toy industry convention, where, Lego, not Hasbro, Lego showed off, the set from their Ant-Man series called The Final Battle. And from the trailers, of course, we see that it's going to be, Scott Lang as Ant-Man, and he's going to be fighting the Yellow Jacket. And, you know, that's not anything spoiler-worthy. Anyone who's seen the trailers knows that. Thing is that Hank Pym, who in the comics was the original Ant-Man, and he will have that role in this movie, as sort of Scott Lang's mentor, this Lego set implies that Hank Pym will not only don the Ant-Man suit himself in this film, but that he will be the film's true villain. And, so yeah, good on Lego for spoiling, one of Marvel's upcoming, projects.
Which,
good
that makes
job.
me wonder if he's supposed to be Yellow Jacket, or what?
No, the Hank, he's gonna have his own evil version of the Ant-Man suit.
But that just seems really out of character for Pym. Because,
Pym's an asshole. He doesn't,
he's an asshole, but he's like a hippie asshole.
Hey, he's a hippie and he's an alcoholic asshole, only not in the fun alcoholic way that Tony Stark is.
Fair enough.
More like Daddy No, kind of. Alcoholic.
No, Daddy, no! Oh, dear Lord. Send your hate mail, too. Yeah.
So, I don't know, on one hand, it's an interesting twist, on the other hand, it really isn't, because Hank Pym's an asshole in the comic book, so him being an asshole in the cinematic universe isn't all that much of a stretch. But further on that, Marvel, stop pretending you're clever, okay? You make superhero movies. Superhero movies aren't supposed to be, they aren't supposed to be thrillers that keep you guessing. They're escapist fun. You already ruined my fucking day with Iron Man 3. Can we have a movie where the villain is the fucking villain? Is that so hard?
Where what is the villain?
Where the villain is the villain.
Oh, gotcha.
Can we just have a movie where everyone is who they're supposed to be? Cause I don't go into a Marvel movie looking for cinema that's going to keep me guessing. I go in to have a good time. And even if your cookie cutter formulas, Marvel, you generally succeed in giving me a good time. But I don't know. And Hank Pym's an asshole again, so it's not totally out of left field, but it just seems like this is a case of them overthinking a situation, if you catch my meaning on that.
Yeah. I get you. I get tired of, I do get tired of seeing the villains kind of fuck with. They seem to experiment a lot with villains, and on one hand I get it, but on the other hand I wish they'd just leave well enough alone and stick with what works.
Hey guys, now Dr. Doom's gonna be an internet troll!
Yeah, that's, of course, I mean, it is Fantastic Four, or Fantastic Four, rather, so, you know, it's kind of anything that I don't really see too many giving fucks about.
I just think that's funny. It's like, oh, we had a villain who was a super genius and the king of his own country, but, you know, I guess an internet blogger, that's basically the same thing, right? Just fucking stupid decisions. Anyway, We are going to, talk some Transformers. We've stated a few times that we're not totally enamored with Robots in Disguise, the 2015, version of that show.
We're not enthralled.
No, Drift is the audience viewpoint character, in my opinion. Your juvenile delinquent, rookie cop, and malfunctioning Minicon and oafish Dinobot are unimpressive. Like, yeah, you know what?
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. Drift summed that up for me.
But what kind of a state of affairs is it where Drift of all people is the most relatable? I mean, what threshold have we crossed? Speaking of thresholds, we need to talk about a few thresholds that have been crossed in American cuisine here in a moment. Not exactly geek material, except that most of us probably just fuel ourselves with garbage anyway, so I guess in that sense it kind of is. But yeah, we'll get to that in a moment.
Indeed. Thresholds, as they, refer to Robots in Disguise, we already talked about how Micronus Prime is now Optimus Prime's spirit guide, in the Transformers afterlife, I guess. Cause, of all the previous Primes to come before Optimus, they gave him the Minicon. I guess they're all just really pissed at him for blowing up the Matrix.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's been in existence for millions of years, and here comes Prime.
Here comes Optimus, who's like, participation!
Yeah, here comes Optimus, he's like, I'm gonna throw myself down this fucking well. I'm sick and tired of this motherfucking Bumblebee. So then Bumblebee ends up in charge, and yeah.
But, and so in that context, you understand why the other Primes maybe decided to give him Micronus Prime, who is an asshole, by the way, in the show. He's a dick. I thought they would be going for like a Yoda thing. No, he's just a short, Napoleon complex douchebag.
It's kind of like the way I imagine it if like a president from like the last 20 years
got Jimmy Carter?
Well, yeah, because George Washington was pissed.
So his spirit guide is Jimmy Carter?
Yeah, though Jimmy Carter's still alive.
Alright, so who would be the dead version of Jimmy Carter, Len? I don't know, Miller Fillmore?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Franklin Pierce?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
One of those presidents that everyone forgets?
Yeah, exactly. You're not getting Lincoln, that's for sure.
Chester A. Arthur!
Yeah, pretty much. Exactly.
But anyhow, it's just, there were some potential plot threads that RID could have picked up on that I was interested in when the show started, and they really haven't. I thought that they were gonna work on Strong Arm, maybe make her less of an annoying, waste of space as the show went on. They have just decided to double down on that personality trait of hers.
You silly fuck. They're not gonna do anything useful.
The sideswipe just kind of ignores me, bothers me, irritates me, annoys me. Grimlock, I find Grimlock fun. He's at least not dull. He's not angsty or anything. He's just kind of fun. But then they have an episode called Adventures in Bumblebee Sitting, and I'm just like, no, done. I need to get away from this. Because nobody cares. But the reason why we're talking about R.I. Door, because we have touched on it, in the past, the reason why we're talking about it now is, there has been some leaked info that hints at who the main villain is going to be. Now, anyone who's watching the show knows that the show really doesn't focus a lot on Autobot-Decepticon conflict, but insofar as there has been a Decepticon villain, it has been Steeljaw, the wolf guy.
Did Optimus Prime had to show up and kill in 5 seconds.
Yes. Cause that's a great way to, that's a great way to start off your series without Optimus Prime, is have Optimus Prime show up to solve all their problems for them. But, anyway, so Steeljaw, he's like the closest this thing has had to a main villain. I guess sensing that he was perhaps not up to the task of being primary antagonist material, they have gone and resurrected the character known as the Fallen. Now, you all might remember the Fallen from the cinematic classic Transformers 2, Revenge of the Fallen, directed by Michael Bay, who has the eyes of an eagle.
Indeed.
Basically the Fallen is Megatronus. Now, Megatronus is the guy that Megatron took his name from. It's all very contrived and a bit stupid, but the point is that Megatronus was actually one of the early primes. He lost his shit, though, and betrayed everyone, and so he became known as the Fallen. And Megatron kind of looked up to him because he didn't take no shit from no one. And so Megatron's basically the only guy who respects that Megatronus kept it real. I guess is the best way to put that. Megatronus is Megatronus, not Megatron, but Megatronus, the Fallen, is going to be the big villain of the season 1 finale of Robots in Disguise 2015. And he is the guy who Optimus Prime is going to be brought back to life to face.
So in the end, they still can't fix shit without Prime.
No. The episode synopses for the last 2 episodes of the series were leaked. Megatronus is going to come back with the help of Steeljaw. He is going to try to destroy Earth. And that all the other primes in the afterlife decide that now is the time to send Optimus back to Earth to face this threat. So at the end of the day, Bumblebee's getting his ass bailed out by Optimus Prime. As we all knew this would end.
Pretty much. I mean, why would they want the D team to face off against the one entity, one of the few entities that's supposed to be a bigger threat than Megatron?
Yeah, no. I mean, in the Transformers, in the in-universe mythology, the Fallen is not quite the equivalent to Lucifer, although his name might seem like it is, but he's pretty damn close. He is, within the mythology of the Transformers universe, he's kind of the guy who ended Paradise. And so, he's a badass motherfucker. And he's going up against Bumblebee and his C-list commandos.
Lol. Yeah.
And so, it's only gonna end up with Optimus Prime being like, Bumblebee, was this mean man bothering you?
Show me on the action figure where he touched you.
It's okay, Bumblebee. The grown-ups are here.
Pretty much.
But, whatever. I've come to terms that this show is not meant for me. This show is not aimed at me. And I completely understand that. I understand why they are directing it at the audience they're directing it at, and I understand that, that's probably a smart decision on their end. It doesn't mean I have to like it, and it doesn't mean I have to engage with it, and I haven't. I tried watching, RID. I got around, maybe 8 episodes in before I just decided, you know what, I'm done. And then everything I've watched since then from the show has been, when a new episode comes out, I check out the synopses, and if it sounds like it might be a bit interesting, then I'll watch it. But I've already given up on watching the show on an episode-by-episode basis.
I have to. Beyond, binge watching those first 9 episodes or whatever, cause, well, a fit of abject boredom, basically. I haven't watched them. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, you've got some good things set up here. I do see some hints of competent writing here and there. And so you keep watching, for those promises to be filled, and they never really are. And I mean, I get it, a new series in its first season, does usually a lot of times struggle to find its way. And that's something I've kind of noticed with most, TV series, animated series especially seem to be bad for this. The first season a lot of times is often the worst. Because they don't seem to know really what to do with it. And it's not until later when, they kind of get like this overarching plot line developed that it begins to become competent. But the thing is here, I mean, they started off pretty good in the first episode. You've got a lot of things there that you can build on and expand upon and so on and so forth that they haven't really bothered. And they've mostly just been the moral of the week episodes, and it's really fucking annoying. I mean, I get it. It's aimed towards kids. But I think even kids, in a lot of cases, are a bit more sophisticated than what this show is offering them.
Bumblebee taught us how to work as a team.
Lol.
But, and I don't know, it kind of just
For
seems
this
like...
week, until they completely forget the next week.
Indeed. It just seems like the show is kind of meandering without much of an identity. They introduced a female human character who I guess was supposed to be sort of the girlfriend love interest of the main human character a couple episodes in, and then she didn't show up again for the rest of the series, and it's like, well, okay, you introduced that plot point, obviously you had some idea of what you wanted to do with it, and then you didn't bring it up, so why are you wasting our time with it? If you're gonna bring up a plot point, see it through to the end, or don't bring it up at all. It just seems like and again, this whole Megatronus thing is proof positive that, okay, you want a Transformers show that does something different. You want a Transformers show that doesn't give us Optimus Prime and Megatron. Okay, so you're gonna go Bumblebee and Steeljaw as the main, protagonist, main antagonist. Okay, fine. But commit to that. Don't give us the show that kind of meanders through that dynamic until you get to the end. Not just kidding, it's all Optimus Prime versus the Fallen. Because then you're just sort of, again, you're not owning the concept that you tried to sell us the show on. It's like you don't know what you want it to be.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of is maybe they're afraid of losing too much of the quote-unquote core audience or something. I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, if you're going to commit, if you're going to throw down and say, hey, we're going to do a new Transformers series, it's not going to have Bumblebee, or it's not going to have Optimus Prime, wishful thinking, Freudian slip there. Yeah. It's not going to have Optimus Prime, we're going to do something new with this one. And we're like, oh, okay, well, first you and I went on a drunken rage fit. But then after that, when we actually watched it, we're like, okay, well, this could work. And then they proceed to immediately make it not work.
It's just a show that's meandering. And honestly, if you're an older fan and you want tighter, more coherent, or interesting Transformers stories, read IDW. And pray that James Roberts write the next show, because whatever this is, it's not offensively bad, but it doesn't have its own identity. It's just, here are some robots doing things on a weekly basis. And there's nothing memorable. And I think that's a shame.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I've almost given up on the idea of Hasbro making a Transformers animated series that I like at this point. I mean, Prime was the closest. Even it had a lot of problems with it. Maybe I am just too caught up in G1. Maybe I'm too caught up. Maybe I'm guilty of being the vanilla addict of Transformers. Maybe.
I don't know. You showed an ability to appreciate Armada.
Oh yeah, Armada was wonderful.
But that's my point. You're not so caught up that it's like, oh, everything that's not G1 is crap. It's like, you can't appreciate, and for as goofy as it was, you did say that you liked the original, 2001 RID show.
I did, yeah. I mean, honestly, at that point, I was just so glad that we were done with this whole animal bullshit.
The Beast era was finally over.
Yeah, cause I was maybe a year or two probably older than the target audience for Beast Wars when it came out. Not much. I was still young enough to have watched it and enjoyed it, maybe even wanted some of the toys. But I seen that, I'm like, wait, where's all the cool trucks and the tanks and the jet planes and all this other shit?
Optimus Prime's a monkey now!
Right, and that was exactly my thought. He's a fucking monkey? Fuck this. And I stopped watching it. And then, there were years where nothing happened and I just assumed it had fucking died. And I'm like, aw, Transformers died. And then RID came out and I'm like, it lives! It lives! So, I'm capable of appreciating, but I don't know. Maybe my standards are just too high or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm. No, I get where you're coming from. It's definitely a situation where we're going to have to, we're going to have to see where we're going to have to see where it all leads, because the team in charge of, the RID 2015 show is the same team that did Prime. The Transformers Prime show. And they've described it as, quote, a very tight-knit group. I think we might be at a point in Transformers animated media where, Final Fantasy is at Square Enix. Where maybe the team has been too self-contained for too long and it's time to shake things up with some new crap. Bring in some new writers, bring in some new ideas. Because, the current guys have been working together for a long time, and that can be good, but it gets to a point where maybe it's time to try something new.
I would like for them to try something new. I really would. I would love for them to try new things with the franchise, give us new stories and things, and they're trying, I think, with this.
They're trying, but at the same time, it's still the same team that's been working on the franchise on the animated side for years. So even though they're trying to do new stuff, it's still helmed by the same creative direction that did Prime. And what I'm saying is maybe it's time to break that team up and bring in new writers. I mean, I don't know if they go for it, but offer the next series to the IDW writing crew. See what happens. What's the worst that can happen? It'll be uninspired crap. Well, that's what we got now, so it's not like we're out anything.
Exactly. I mean, if it's bad, fine. Well, what we've got now isn't all that great either. I think IDW could, unless they just had issues adopting it to a TV format, but, I mean, they've shown that they've got a brilliant writing team, that isn't afraid to push things in a different direction, to do their own thing with it, and I would like to see that translated into a TV series, but I don't think we'll get it.
I mean, if you want a Transformers series without Optimus Prime or Megatron, the More Than Meets the Eye IDW comic series. It doesn't even have any Decepticons. Well, it has a few Decepticons, but it really doesn't. It takes place after the war, so there's no that traditional conflict isn't there. It's all based on non-traditional ideas for how the Transformers series could work. And yeah, Megatron was added in season 2 of the comics, but as an Autobot. And season 1, there was no Optimus, there was no Megatron. So, if you want that sort of show, you could look into adopting IDW's More Than Meets the Eye series as as a TV show. Maybe there are problems that would need to be worked out. Maybe you couldn't get James Roberts himself to write it, but you could definitely have him as a consultant. You could look at ways to bring that kind of version of Transformers to the screen, because say what you will about IDW, most people rightfully appreciate it, but there are some people who don't care for it, but you can say whatever you want about it. At the end of the day, at least it has its own identity. At least it has a direction it knows it wants to go in. It has its own sense of self, which is more than you can say for the meandering garbage that Robots in Disguise 2015 has been. And that's all I have to say about that.
It does have an identity. It's just not quite sure entirely what that identity is. It knows some of what it wants to be, but not all of it. It wants to be different. It wants to show Transformers who aren't your usual A-listers, and I get and even kind of applaud that. But then you get these characters who are clean slates that you can do anything with, and you don't do anything with them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, the lesson of the week, whatever that may be, is instantly forgotten the next week. They're right back to bickering and being annoying, and it's almost like a cartoon version of fucking Seinfeld. It's horrible. All they do is fucking bicker. That's why I didn't like fucking Seinfeld. All they did is fucking bicker. Just a bunch of idiots.
That was the point. That was the point, though.
If I wanted that, I'd just look around me.
Well, anyway, I think that'll do it for episode 56 of basically a Geek Show.
Indeed. Real quick, though, we're just going to really quick discuss the apocalypse.
Oh yes, the apocalypse taking the form of food.
Pizza Hut has lost their goddamn minds. Mike showed me this right before we started recording the show, and I'm still kind of I'm still kind of speechless. Pizza Hut has officially announced pizza with pigs in a blanket is the fucking crust. I'm not making this up. I'm actually painfully sober at the moment. We're not on any kind of hallucinogens, though I think the good folks at Pizza Hut might be. It is pizza with little hot dog stuffed biscuits, whatever, around the fucking crust.
Not only that, but there are two varieties, regular and pretzel.
Which I would go pretzel if I was going to do this, but yeah, I mean, and it's like, why? Who has been eating a pizza and thought, you know what I'd really like to have go
hot
with?
Dogs.
Yeah, I really want a fucking pig in a blanket to go with this. I mean, it's not like, okay, like if they found a way to have like those same biscuits with like buffalo chicken bites inside of them, that would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because, pizza and the chicken wings thing, whatever, it's kind of commonly had. The stuffed crust pizza made sense because you get kind of like your cheesy sticks or whatever with it built in. Okay, fine. Pigs in a fucking blanket? Seriously?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. America, get your shit together. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, but anyway, so yes, that will do it for episode 56 of Basically a Geek Show.
You can catch us on, Twitter at A Geek Show. You can email us at basicallyageekshow@gmail.com. Stitcher, Spreaker, YouTube, iTunes, and of course at basicallyasportshow.com. Jack, anything else you just want to close the show on, or is that going to be it?
Well, just saying that next week's episode will probably be recorded quote-unquote live in the sense that we'll both be in the same room. Possibly.
Indeed. I will be, in fact, tomorrow I will be heading down to the great state of, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, actually, so. I'll be down there for our next, for both, Basically a Sports Show and Basically a Geek Show. It'll be the first Basically a Sports Show where all three, cast members are going to be in the same country, and actually the same for Basically a Geek Show. So, historic Basically a Podcast moments coming up, ladies and gentlemen.
Indeed, and yeah, also probably next week's episode of Bass will feature me yelling random obscenities in the background.
Indeed, it probably will be. You'll make your Bass debut, sir.
Lol. Anyway, so yes, that will do it for us, and we will catch you next week.
Later.